You're already there. Everyone else is still on their way. And somehow, that feels like the only way you know how to exist in the world. Not 5 minutes early. Not right on time. 10 minutes early. Almost exactly. Like clockwork. Like something inside you physically won't allow anything else. And if you're being honest, you've never fully understood why. You just know that the thought of being late, even by 2 minutes, creates a feeling in your chest that most people only get when they're about to step off a ledge. Here's what nobody ever says out loud. Arriving early isn't a habit. It's a psychological signature. It's your nervous system telling the world a story about who you are and what you survived. And by the end of this video, you'll understand something about yourself that most people spend their entire lives never figuring out. Picture this. It's a Tuesday morning. You have a job interview at 10 a.m. You've already been sitting in your car in the parking lot since 9:47. You've checked your hair twice. You've reviewed your notes. You know the interviewer's LinkedIn. You're ready. And then, someone walks in at 9:58, breezy and unbothered, straightening their jacket at the door like they have all the time in the world. You feel something in that moment. Not quite irritation. More like disorientation. Like watching someone walk a tightrope without even knowing they're on one. Because in your world, 9:58 isn't on time. 9:58 is a near miss. 9:58 is the sound of something almost going wrong. And here's what nobody tells you about that feeling. It didn't start with this interview. It didn't even start in adulthood. That feeling has roots. Deep ones. Now here's where it gets really interesting. A study published in the Journal of Research in Personality found that chronic early arrivers score significantly higher on conscientiousness and anxiety sensitivity than their on-time or late counterparts. Translation: your brain is literally wired to treat time as a threat management system, not just a scheduling tool. And there's more. Research from the American Psychological Association links time anxiety, the persistent low-grade fear of being late, to elevated baseline cortisol levels. That's the stress hormone, the one your body releases when it perceives danger. Translation: when you're running 5 minutes behind, your brain isn't just mildly annoyed. It's in a genuine physiological state of threat response. You're not being uptight. You're not being neurotic. Your nervous system is doing exactly what it was trained to do. And understanding that changes everything about how you see yourself. But to understand how it was trained, we have to go back, way back. When you were somewhere around 7 or 8 years old, something taught you that being unprepared was dangerous. Not inconvenient, not embarrassing, dangerous. Maybe it was a parent who made the energy in the room shift when things ran behind schedule. Maybe it was the humiliation of walking into class late while 30 heads turned to look at you. That specific scorching feeling of being witnessed in your failure. Maybe it was an environment that was unpredictable enough that you learned, early and thoroughly, that the only way to feel safe was to be ahead of it. Always ahead of it. By the time you were 12, you had built an entire internal operating system around one core belief. If I am ready before anything can go wrong, nothing will go wrong. It was brilliant, actually. As a coping mechanism for a child navigating an uncertain world, arriving early was genius. It gave you control in environments where control was scarce. It handed you a small but reliable source of predictability in a life that may not have had much of it. The 1990s and early 2000s, if that's your generation, were full of cultural messaging that reinforced this. Early is on time is late is unacceptable. Sports coaches, parents, teachers. The message was everywhere, and for kids with a particular kind of nervous system, it didn't land as motivation. It landed as law. But wait, there's a darker side to this. Here's the paradox, and this is the part that will genuinely stop you mid-thought. The same psychological wiring that makes you exceptional, reliable, prepared, trusted, the person everyone counts on, is also the wiring that quietly exhausts you in ways you can barely articulate. Because here's what early arrival really is, beneath the surface. It's a preemptive apology. It's you telling the world, before anyone has even had the chance to be disappointed, I'm not going to be a burden. I'm not going to cause a problem. I'm already here. I'm already enough. And this explains why you often feel anxious even after you arrive on time. The task was never actually about the time. The task was about managing other people's potential reactions to you. So even when you win by arriving at 9:47, the deeper need, to know for certain that you're okay, that you haven't failed anyone, never fully gets satisfied. This explains why you over-prepare for conversations you haven't had yet, why you rehearse what you'll say before phone calls, why you mentally simulate worst-case scenarios, not because you're pessimistic, but because your brain learned long ago that simulation equals survival. This explains why other people's lateness feels almost personal, because on some level, unconsciously, you read it as, they weren't worried about me. And worry, in the language your childhood taught you, was a form of love. That one might have landed somewhere uncomfortable. Good. Stay with it. And this explains everything about your relationships. Society looks at people like you and sees rigidity, control issues, an inability to relax. You've probably been told to loosen up more times than you can count. You've watched more easygoing people get praised for their spontaneity, while you quietly hold the whole structure of every plan together from the background. While everyone else was learning that the world would catch them if they fell, you were learning to foolproof your entire existence. That's not a character flaw. That's an adaptation, a sophisticated, intelligent, deeply human response to an environment that asks too much of you too young. The research backs this up. Consistently, people who exhibit time-protective behavior are rated by peers as more dependable, more trustworthy, and more capable under pressure. You are, statistically, the person others call in a crisis, the person who shows up, not just literally early to the meeting, but present when it counts, in every sense of that word. The world benefits enormously from people like you. It just rarely stops to say thank you. What I'm about to tell you in the next 60 seconds reframes everything. The truth is, arriving early isn't anxiety. It's not a quirk. It's not even really about time. It's love, in the only language you learned to speak fluently as a kid. It's I care about this enough to protect it. It's I value you enough to not risk disappointing you. It's I take this seriously because taking things seriously was how you showed up for people when the world felt unreliable. The 10 minutes you spend waiting in your car, or standing outside a coffee shop, or sitting in an empty meeting room, those 10 minutes aren't wasted. They're the price of the peace of mind that lets you function. They're the ritual that tells your nervous system, you're okay. You made it. Nothing went wrong. And here's the reframe that changes everything. You don't need to fix this. You need to understand it. Because when you understand where it comes from, when you can look at that 7-year-old version of yourself who learned that preparedness meant safety, something shifts. The anxiety doesn't disappear, but it stops feeling like a malfunction. It starts feeling like a message from someone who has always been trying to take care of you. So the next time you find yourself sitting in a parking lot at 9:47, checking your notes one more time, watching the clock in a way that other people simply don't call it a flaw, call it what it is. A child who learned to love carefully. An adult who shows up, fully, faithfully, without fail. You were never too much. You were never too rigid. You were always just someone who decided, very early, that the people and the moments in your life were worth protecting. And you've been protecting them, 10 minutes at a time, ever since. If this resonated with something you've never quite been able to explain about yourself, you'll want to watch this next video, because we go even deeper into the childhood patterns that quietly run your adult life in ways most people never see coming.